meantime, I have two great guests standing by who've been following this case, and I want to dig deep into some of the biggest issues with them now. With me, psychologist and family and parenting expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth, and trial attorney Jamie White, who is licensed to practice in the state of Michigan. Welcome to you both. We're getting toward the end of the state's evidence presentation. Their case in chief should be coming to an end sometime soon. And at this point, I'm wondering, is there anything left the state can do? I always try to hearken back to my experience as a prosecutor and think about what more might I try to do if I'm the state. And so, Jamie, I'd like to go to you first, please, on this issue. In your opinion, has the state been able to lay out their case and provide the requisite proof they need to meet these involuntary manslaughter charges?
Yes, I do believe they've had the requisite proof. And, keeping in mind, there's no need for intent or an intentional act. The only requirement is that there is gross negligence. And I think without going through all of the evidence in this segment, we've all heard the step-by-step the precautions that could have and should have been taken. As far as what the state could do going forward, I would, if it was me, I would put on some of the victims' parents and families. And I know that's very difficult, but I think it would really tie a ribbon around the harm that these folks have caused.
Jamie White, talk to me here about these pieces of evidence. Is the state using them as effectively as they can against James and Jennifer Crumbley?
They are, and quite frankly, I'm surprised the journal comes in because there isn't any evidence that shows directly that the parents knew, but it clearly is probative to some degree. And then, real quick, Julie, back to your other question. I think we talked about this after Jennifer's trial. I understand he has appellate rights, but from a defense point of view, it makes sense for them to call Ethan. He could, potentially clarify that his parents did not have knowledge before the shooting, other than what Mr. Hopkins shared in the counselor's office. So I think the state is using the evidence effectively. I think they learned some lessons from Jennifer's trial, and I expect that we will see a conviction. But if we're looking for sort of a Hail Mary, Ethan would be a good witness for the defense, presumably.
Right, Jamie. Point taken. For both of the Crumbley parents, he would be a good witness for them. Jamie White, you practice in Michigan. Assuming we get to the defense case, do you think James Crumbley can help himself on the stand?
Well, it's a huge risk. The cross-examination would be brutal, to say the least. But I do think that there's a possibility that if he were to get on the stand and provide some humanity and some compassion and regret for some of his actions, it could have an impact on the jury. Because again, we're asking the jury to find them responsible, approximate cause of the deaths of these children. And it can get squirrely. I mean, if I were to loan a gun to my friend and then he loans it to another friend and he loans it to another friend, I'm clearly not responsible. So, at what point in time do we hold parties responsible for third-party actions? Now, I think in this case, he's guilty, but I do think that it's worth putting him on the stand, and I'll be surprised if they don't.
All right, I have a question for one of my guests standing by, attorney Jamie White, who practices in the state of Michigan where this case is being tried. Jamie, prosecutors love if they can get a flight as consciousness of guilt instruction when you have defendants who seem to go bye-bye after they may be under the cloud of suspicion for a crime, and then you can potentially use that against you if the jurisdiction has it. I'm curious with the Crumbleys not being around for arrest, and I remember all the news reports about it, and when they were finally arrested, it was a big deal. Does Michigan have such an instruction that prosecutors can ask for, Jamie?
Yes, they do. There is an instruction regarding flight evidence, and I expect we'll hear it in this case. But Julie, I'll tell you, in my opinion, this is a very thin line. You know, this was a Friday, I believe, that their attorneys actually communicated with the prosecutor with intentions to turn them in on Monday. You know, I've seen situations where I've been involved with situations where it's like, hey, there's a warrant for your arrest. We need to turn you in. And they're like, oh, man, Mr. White, you know, I hate to put you in this position, but I need the weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Most flight evidence cases, people actually flee the jurisdiction. And this is a thin one, but they will get the instruction.